Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. We have made it to the end of the week, and your reward is 2.5 hours of 580 Sports Talk this afternoon on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and live on video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page at WIBW News. However you are consuming the program today, we're glad you're along for the fun. We are with you until 5:30 when we'll make way for Royals baseball. This is 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is in with me, just the two of us today. But we can make it if we try. Royals baseball in Baltimore for a 3-game set starting tonight, a 6:05 first pitch from Camden Yards. Michael Wacha, Dean Kramer, the scheduled starting pitchers. The Royals have only just now released their lineup because they made a late roster move. Seems like there's a little concern about Salvador Perez's hip, which caused him to leave yesterday's game early because the Royals have selected the contract of catcher Luke Maile from AAA Omaha and called him up, sending down Tyler Tolbert. But there is no corresponding injury list move for Perez. The corresponding move to add Maile to the 40-man roster is moving Alec Marsh to the 60-day IL. So that would suggest, with the purchasing of the contract for another catcher, that at the very least, Salvador Perez isn't going to be doing any squatting anytime soon. And in fact, the Royals have just in the last minute released their lineup, and Salvy's out of the lineup tonight. So in his place, Michael Garcia batting cleanup. But anyway, the Royals tonight, 5:30 pregame from the Royals Baseball Network, 6:05 first pitch. We're going to get into their series against Baltimore, the most disappointing team in Major League Baseball to date, the Baltimore Orioles. And the reason they're disappointing, really kind of a disgrace in some ways, and why they are going in one direction while the Royals have continued on a positive trajectory since the two teams met the last time they played at Camden Yards, which was, of course, the wild card series last year where the Royals swept the O's. Plenty of baseball coming up on the show today, including some interesting company that Bobby Witt Jr. now finds himself in statistically. We will tell you all about that. We're going to talk some Chiefs today as well. The offseason is not over. The draft is over. The big parts of the offseason are over. You do have some June 1st cuts, and there's certainly the possibility that you could subtract to or subtract from or add to a roster from this point forward. But by and large, the big business is done, particularly for a team as stable and settled as the Chiefs have been roster-wise over the years. So as we look back at the meat of the offseason, the free agency period, and now the draft, and look at what the checklist was for Brett Veach and the Chiefs coming out of a third straight run to a Super Bowl, but a Super Bowl loss, and evaluate, did they fill every need, and how well did they fill it? And if there's any more that they might need to find themselves doing once there's a little bit more roster clarity post June 1. We'll get into that on the show, and we'll get Matt Derrick's opinion on that and other questions as our Chiefs insider joins us at the bottom of this hour. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joins us every Friday at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. We will look forward to welcoming Matt in today later this hour. Also coming up on the program today, it's a big weekend. We're in the 2020s, but you're forgiven if it feels a bit like the 1920s because there are big events this weekend in boxing and horse racing.
That's true.
Yeah, there's boxing in Times Square. There's outdoor boxing. This weekend. Yeah.
Man, come see the Golden Gloves champion of the world boxing in Times Square.
We'll see Hammerhands McGee take on the champion from Germany. Defend the honor of the Stars and Stripes.
Hans von Ohlberger has come overseas to fight for the world crown. On WNBC only.
WNBC AM.
One of 4 radio stations.
Scoops Johnson will be Mike's side. Anyway, the big horse racing event, of course, is the Kentucky Derby. That's big every year. And
when the ponies.
And when we have Kentucky Derby weekend approaching, we turn to our official Kentucky Derby correspondent on the show, Andy Weingarten, formerly of Wave TV in Louisville, formerly of WIBW TV here in Topeka. Horse knower Andy Weingarten going to join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. He's going to give you the insight into what to expect at Churchill Downs this weekend. Post time 5:78, as our old friend Jake LeBon would say. The Kentucky Derby is this weekend. Andy Weingarten's thoughts coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Plus, even though it is a shortened show today, we're off at 5:30. Still plenty of time for all the things you've come to know and love from a Friday edition of the show. We've got 580 Sports Talk headlines, including a playoff roundup. We've got On Second Thought and Change My Mind, and we'll crown a weekly champion. A short week, but a weekly champion. Our first one of May on What Is Wrong With You.
I'm going to watch some boxing this weekend if I get a chance. I like a good big fight.
I think Canelo's fighting. Like, this is actual boxing. This isn't like whichever Paul brother it is fighting some YouTuber only 8-year-olds know, and somehow it grosses $70 million and Netflix puts it on TV.
Okay, so you are actually conflating 2 different events. There is boxing tonight in Times Square.
Yes.
Featuring the likes of Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. Canelo is fighting tomorrow in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Because of course he is.
It's a big boxing weekend. I didn't say I had the particulars right.
All right, fair enough.
Just that I knew it was a big boxing weekend.
Lopez is my guy. I've won a little scratch on Teofimo Lopez fights before.
Those are 3 names that I am familiar with, though frankly I am more familiar with Ryan Garcia appearing to be just a completely unstable human being than I am any of his boxing exploits.
Listen, you get punched in the head for a living, you'll deal with the consequences.
Yes, but this is real boxing. This isn't YouTubers standing in the center of the ring. And
Frank Gore won't be involved this time.
Yeah, no
Le'Veon Bell.
No celebrities. Not an excuse to pimp an energy drink. This is real boxing.
Real hoop.
Yeah, ethical boxing.
It's a big sports weekend. You got NBA and NHL playoffs.
Couple of Game 7s lined up.
Feeling okay?
No, absolutely not. No, man, already hyperventilating even thinking about it. So,
ultimate disaster scenario last night.
Yeah, playoff roundup. We'll cover all of that later on. Your interaction with the program, we would love to have on the show today. Text the program, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can hit us up in the chat on our YouTube stream as well. If you're watching on YouTube, again, the channel name is 580 Sports Talk. If you're watching along, there is a live chat feature if you are signed in on the YouTube app or on the web browser, and you can interact with us and interact with your fellow listeners as we go along throughout the show today. Looking forward to hearing from you as we go along here. 2.5 hours worth of 580 Sports Talk today. Let's start with the Chiefs. We got Matt Derrick coming up later on this hour. We'll get Matt's final thoughts on the draft class of the Chiefs and where they might go, what turns the offseason still might yet take. But if you go back to immediately following the Super Bowl or the short-term aftermath, maybe immediately following is too dramatic because you always overreact to any loss, but especially a loss in the Super Bowl and especially that kind of loss in the Super Bowl. So you had to get a little bit of remove from what happened in New Orleans in Super Bowl 59 to take a more clear-headed look at what this Chiefs roster was, what it needed to become to stay atop the AFC, and how that could be accomplished. What would you define as the needs that the Chiefs had going into free agency and the draft? I have 5 of them on my checklist. And Brendan, I'm curious if you thought there were any others, because some of these are pretty general. But number 1 was left tackle.
Yep.
Had to address it. Number 2, for lack of a better way to put it, juice at the skill spots.
Totally agree.
Needed speed and playmaking at the skill spots. Needed a backup quarterback. Needed defensive tackle depth. And that was something that really increased in importance following the free agent departures of Turk Warden and Derrick Nottie. And I think the last one I would have is just generally depth on defense. You had to add more guys. The Chiefs were just lacking productive players, even role players behind their best defensive players last year, and broadly needed defensive depth. Does that about cover it? Do you think that was about if Brett Veach had a whiteboard, that was probably the extent of what they were looking for this offseason?
I think a long-term edge plan would also go on here, defensive end plan, because like you've got, obviously, George Karlaftis is going to get a new contract. He's going to be extended long-term with the Chiefs. I think that's obvious to me anyway. You've got Amenahu for another year. You've got Dana certainly for this year. I don't know exactly how the money will work for the third year of his contract. Felix, I mean, maybe this is the year he breaks out, gets into the rotation, looks pretty good. It's possible. But, Malik Herring's not really giving you anything, mostly special teams. Like, I think having a longer-term addition to the edge room farther down the list, like, I would have even put that below, if you were to rank these, I would have put it below defensive tackle. Like, you had to get a starter and depth on the interior. Had to. So I'd put end a little bit lower than that, but I do think that was a need. And, well, we'll get through how they filled all of them, but I'd call that a win because they got Ashton Gelati, who you've got under contract for 4 years. So good. All set for me.
So that's the first question. What did they need? And then the second question is, how effective were the Chiefs at addressing the needs that they had? We'll start with the basic needs. Like, we're not on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is Veach's hierarchy of needs for the Chiefs and Andy Reid's hierarchy of needs in 2025. Left tackle. The Chiefs took two swings at this. They paid Jalen Moore on a 2-year deal, and they drafted Josh Simmons. And while there is upside, I think, in both directions, and higher upside for Simmons, given his first-round pedigree, than for Moore, who was the day 3 pick who's spent the bulk of his NFL career as a backup, albeit a backup to a future Hall of Famer in Trent Williams out in San Francisco, still a question mark at left tackle for 2025. Is that acceptable handling of this position? Maybe not. Maybe you can argue that it is not, but I would argue back, was there any other solution? Were they going to end up in a place where you felt really good about left tackle for 2025 and beyond? And I don't think that they could have gotten to that place in a way where there wasn't a lingering question mark or a lingering uncertainty at the spot. Given the quality of left tackles in the draft class and the quality of left tackles in the free agent class, and really what we mean when we say that is the lack thereof, I don't know that there was any way that the Chiefs were going to be able to address left tackle in such a fashion where you feel 100% confident in their solution for 2025 and beyond. So if there's no way to do that with just one guy, take two swings of the piñata and see if one of them cracks. I'm good with how the Chiefs approach this, even if I didn't necessarily love the process behind the Simmons pick. I can certainly understand that if it hits, you have solved a long-term problem and you have solved it for the long term.
Yeah, I think you have to call it a hit because the way they handled the left tackle spot this offseason, because they needed two things on a left tackle. They needed somebody for 2025 who could play and contribute and be good enough immediately to keep you in your Super Bowl window and to make that offensive line playable enough to win a Super Bowl. And you had to have an idea long-term. You had to get that spot locked up long-term. And you hit both. And the first part of that, the former part of that, maybe Moore's not great, and maybe he plays like a barely league average replacement level left tackle. And if that's the case, well, so be it. But you didn't have that many good options. Like, Ronnie Stanley never hit the market.
No.
I didn't know that Laramie Tunsil would be available, but the Texans weren't going to trade with the Chiefs because they're trying to beat the Chiefs.
This is the guy from the Rams. He never got to the market.
Eric Jackson. Yeah, he never got to market either. There were a bunch of guys who never even made it to free agency because teams said, wow, this class stinks. We're just going to keep our own guys, even if it's on short-term deals. And the Chiefs, unfortunately, were kind of left holding the bag there. So, I don't know that I love Jalen Moore as a player. I think there's a lot of question marks there. But you addressed the need, and if he's good enough, then you're fine. And long term, again, like in a perfect world, would I have preferred the Chiefs trade up and get Josh Connerly from Oregon instead? Yeah. Was that realistic? Well, probably not. So you ended up getting a guy who's essentially going to be taking a redshirt year. It'll be very much like the new redshirt rule. Like maybe he plays 4 games and then sits the rest of the season. But you have your long-term option, assuming that he can stay healthy. So I don't know. They kind of, this is like when you are told in math class, you got to show your work to get your answer. And like, wow, your work is a mess, but you did get the right answer. The answer is X minus 1. I don't know, like all these numbers and stuff. I don't know how the hell you got there, but you got the answer. It's kind of what the Chiefs did here. Like, this was not the clearest direct path to filling their need, but they did get it done.
No sure thing, but they bought 2 raffle tickets. And I think that is process that I can understand, again, given the way the offseason was unfolding.
And I would say even better than raffle tickets. Like, that the plan is clear what they intend to do with the position. And, like, you like the talent, at least of Simmons. There are question marks with both, but I can understand why, given the fact that Stanley, Jackson, et cetera, never hit the market, why this is the way they ended up having to go. And given the fact that they were kind of behind the 8 ball, I think they did about as well as they could have, even if there are still some question marks.
So let's take a look at some of the other lines on the checklist. We can deal with backup quarterback real quick. Did they upgrade a backup quarterback? Yes.
Yeah, I think Minshew is just sort of a better version of the idea of Carson Wentz as a backup. Like, as an okay arm, Minshew's arm's not great. Like,
you have Wentz, you have the idea of Carson Wentz, and then you have Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Minshew can create a little bit, which is the good thing, ideally, about Wentz. But the problem is Wentz's football IQ is less than 0. Minshew will make more mistakes than you generally like, but not as many as Wentz will. Mm-hmm. Like, Week 18 doesn't look nearly as bad this past year. Not that it mattered, but Week 18 wouldn't have looked nearly as bad with Minshew instead of Wentz.
So they've upgraded backup quarterback. Skill position juice. The Chiefs retained Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal, drafted Jalen Royals and Brashard Smith, and also acquired Elijah Mitchell, who, when he's been on the field, has shown some home run potential at running back. Problem is he's never on the field.
Mm-hmm. And re-signed Kareem Hunt. So reasonably, again, you're dealing with some constraints here because this isn't fantasy football, but they added a receiver in the draft that I think fits the mold of their receiver room. Yes.
They added a running back who fits the mold of their running back room. They did get a little younger in the process. Mm-hmm. Keeping Hollywood Brown is a move I'm really in favor of. I don't know that this is a resounding slam dunk success, but it does feel like they made progress in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, if the binary is did we address this or did we not, the answer is an obvious yes. And I'm with you. I like Hollywood coming back. I like the idea of Jalen Royals. I like the idea of Brashard Smith. Elijah Mitchell, I don't know that he can play more than 20 snaps all season, but I get the idea. They got to play. That's what it comes down to. It also helps that Rashee Rice will be back to some degree. I still am hesitant about how much he can do because that was not just like, oh, yeah, he tore his ACL. There was some other junk going on in there, too. So I am a little trepidatious about that, but it should be better. These guys got to play, though. Like, it doesn't work if you draft Brashard Smith to add some speed and some explosion to your running game, and he's going to see the field for 4 snaps, and you're going to give a bunch of handoffs to Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. Like, that doesn't do it for me. So this is a yes, but you have to see these guys on the field. Yeah. And again, we're in agreement. I hope that by midseason or at least a little beyond that, Jalen Royals is wide receiver 4 over Juju. And that's not a ton of contribution, but Chiefs use 4 receivers plenty often on 3rd and long. So that's my hope there.
The defensive tackle group went from last year, Chris Jones, Turk Wharton, mm-hmm. Derrick Nottie, mm-hmm. and Mike Pennell.
Yep.
To Chris Jones, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman Lott, and Mike Pennell.
I think Pennell can probably give you about what he's given you the last couple of years, which is fine.
No reason to expect otherwise.
Chris Jones is Chris Jones, and at some point, you imagine the production will dip a little bit. But man, first half of last year, he looked as good as anybody.
Yes, he did.
Before tapering off a little bit. And you hope that by having Tillery, who I think is a downgrade from Turk Wharton, but not so much that you're like, hey, we might cut him before week 1. Uh-huh. It's fine. He's got a little bit of pass rush Omar Norman Lott, the idea with him is he's got a little bit of pass rush. Hopefully those two guys once in a while can both be on the field at the same time. Maybe you give, Chris Jones 5-6 fewer snaps a game, keep him a little bit fresher. I'm okay with it. It was a terrible free agent year. There were only so many things you could do to address it. So little pass rush experience with Tillery, even if he's not a great locker room guy. I like the Norman Lott pick. I'm cool with it.
I think that's an important point to make, that the Chiefs were in a spot where it was going to be really hard to address all of their needs in a way where they dramatically improved. And there are 4 reasons why. Number one, how much you get to dramatically improve a team that went in games in which they tried to win last year, 17-2. Let's remember who these guys are and what they've accomplished. Number 2, the salary cap. It is what it is. Number 3, draft capital. You pick low in the draft every year because you're always in the Super Bowl. That kind of is what it is. And number 4, like you mentioned, the class of players that became available in free agency was not up to par. It was not what you usually see. And it made it difficult to find those kinds of upgrades for your roster in free agency.
I'm looking right now at the defensive tackle free agents this year, guys who actually hit the market. Even if they return to their team, they actually hit the market. Milton Williams got more than twice as much money as anybody else. Probably an overpay, but a good player. Chiefs never going to be in the mix for that one. John Allen from Washington, too old for the Chiefs. They weren't going to go sign a guy who's that old on the defensive line. Turk Wharton was the 3rd highest paid free agent defensive tackle this year. Wow.
Yeah.
I like Turk. We are big Turk Wharton fans on this program. I'm super happy for him. That's what the class was. Javon Kinlaw got $45 million over 3 years from Washington. I don't love that for the Commander. Javon Kinlaw stinks. He hasn't been good in his career. Grady Jarrett, again, too old for the Chiefs. There just weren't many options out there.
No.
Javon Hargrave was a bust in San Francisco after signing that big contract. The Chiefs were never going to be in play for that.
The last thing, defensive depth across the board, setting defensive end, and let's set defensive tackle aside because we've talked about defensive tackle.
So back 7 then.
Christian Fulton.
A+, love it.
And Noel Williams at the cornerback spots.
Big fan.
Mike Edwards returns at safety.
Like it.
And Jeffrey Bassa drafted at linebacker, and that was about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I honestly think corner was the position of the most need there to add depth because you dealt with the injuries and you dealt with underperformance there last year, and now you're a lot more protected against that. You are much further away from a scenario where you have to put either actual Chris Roland Wallace and Najee Johnson or next year's version of Chris Roland Wallace and Najee Johnson on the field in important games.
No, I think corner is one of the team's biggest strengths, to be completely honest. Jalen Watson, if he starts and he's your 3rd best corner out there, he's on the boundary probably, but he's your 3rd best cover guy. I feel pretty dang good about that. I love the Christian Fulton move. The more I think about it, the more I like it. Sure, there's a risk because he kind of had an up and down career, but he was really good this past season. I love that move. And if Noel Williams is good enough, that's a lot of competition for that 3rd corner, 2nd boundary corner spot. So I'm very, very happy with this particular way they filled out the roster. This feels like the Veach specialty.
Yes.
Aside from defensive tackle this year, there's never been, a total dearth of talent anywhere on the defense.
How do you feel about how the Chiefs address their needs this offseason? Hit us in the text line, 785-272-9429. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube chat as well. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, a quick baseball thought. Bobby Witt Jr. puts himself in some elite statistical company, and Brendan has a thought that the company he keeps is going to shrink in a good way for Bobby Witt Jr. As he moves forward. That's coming up. We got Matt Derrick coming up in just a little bit as well. Just getting started on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting warmed up on 580 Sports Talk. Bobby Witt Jr. went over 1,000 total bases in his career during the Tampa Bay series. And he is just the 24th player since 1969 to accomplish that feat. 1,000 total bases in their first 500 career games.
It's a lot.
That is awfully impressive. Mookie Betts just missed. Rafael Devers got 500 on or 1,000 on the nose. It's a fascinating list. You've got a couple of Hall of Famers on this list: Albert Pujols, Vlad Guerrero, Mike Piazza, Mike Trout certainly going to the Hall of Fame. He's on this list. Jim Rice is on this list. This is since 1969. You've also got some guys on this list like. The most total bases since 1969 in someone's first 500 games is Nomar Garciaparra.
Hell yeah. Love Nomar.
Nomar was a hitter, man. People forget because the wrist went bad and he couldn't drive the ball anymore once he turned like 28.
I remember when the Cubs added him. Thought, wow, this is going to be transformative. Yeah, not in a great way.
That dude just made to hit at Fenway Park. Doubles machine. He was 50 doubles easy every single year. Anyway, your thought, Brendan, was that of the guys on this list, oh, my gosh. Todd Helton's on this list, too. Speaking of Hall of Famers. I can't believe I overlooked my guy. You had a thought about where Bobby Witt Jr. stands among this list of players.
I think Bobby Witt Jr., in terms of talent, is already better than a number of them. And I think when it's all said and done, if you were to take this list of 24 and say, okay, rank the players on this list, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is really close to the top. Like, okay, Albert Pujols is up in the conversation for best right-hand, just pure hitter of all time. Okay, yeah, fine. Alex Rodriguez, one of the best baseball players of all time, even if he's a Hall of Fame jerk. Vlad Guerrero is in the Hall of Fame. Mike Trout is still the best baseball player I've ever seen, probably because I've never seen Ohtani in person. But many of the other guys, even like really good players on this list, and it's hard to compare position to position, like Don Mattingly's on this list. Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, really good player.
Really good hitter,
really good player. Yeah. When it is all said and done, I do not think there will be like Don Mattingly and Bobby Witt. Why are you even putting those two in the same sentence? Like, no chance. Matt Holliday, really good player. Rocky Gray.
Yes.
There's like Matt Holliday, who's playing a different sport than Bobby Witt Jr. was playing. Jim Rice, 500 home runs in his career. He's in the Hall of Fame because he hit 500 home runs. That is why Jim Rice is in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think Jim Rice got to 500 home runs.
Didn't he?
No.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, he didn't get to 500.
Who am I confusing him with?
I don't know. He hit 382 home runs.
I don't know who I'm confusing him with. Mark Teixeira, really good player. His peak, he was a really good player.
Yeah.
You're not even going to consider him in the same league as Bobby Witt Jr. when it's all done. I've been also one of the funniest names to me on this list, Ryan Howard. Do you know how many wins above replacement Ryan Howard had in his career?
I do not.
14 and a half. He was worth barely more than one win per season for his career.
Wow.
He was a star for a while, too.
That's the thing, though, that makes Bobby Witt Jr. so special, because the guys you're talking about are like first baseman and corner outfielders.
Dudes who are hitting, and Bobby's going to hit a bunch of home runs this year.
Sure.
But like these are dudes who made their money as home run hitter. Yes. Josh Hamilton's on this list. Like, good player when he was on the field, but like made his money hitting home runs.
Corner outfielder. Like the middle infielders on this list are Garciaparra, Alex Rodriguez, Hanley Ramirez, Bo Bichette, Trevor Story, and at the time when he was doing all of this, Alfonso Soriano was a middle infielder in his young period of time. That collection of players, could Bobby Witt Jr. stand amongst, like, could he stand above everyone who isn't Alex Rodriguez? Because A-Rod's like, talent-wise, production-wise, a top 10 player probably ever. Yeah, I think he could.
Also, funny thing about Devers, real quick, before we get to Matt Derrick, he gets tons of attention because he plays for the Red Sox at a corner spot. This is such a market thing. Like, I think people around baseball know Bobby Witt, obviously, but the way people talk about Rafael Devers, like, I wouldn't take 8 of him for Bobby Witt Jr.
Do you know how many times Rafael Devers has hit over 300 in his career?
None.
One time. Yeah. But he's been in the top 20 in MVP voting 5 times.
Sure.
He's only 28. Man, he can get to it. No, man. He doesn't get enough hits to get to 3,000. No. Anyhow, that another topic for another day. Matt Derrick is next to talk Chiefs on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the great Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He's our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, and he joins us every Friday on the show. Find him across social media by searching for his name, Matt Derrick. Matt, we've had about a week to sit with it now. Who was your favorite Chiefs draft pick of 2025 and why?
Yeah, it's a tough battle because there's three of them I think I really like. Ashton Gelati I think is going to be a lot of fun. He is a smart, funny kid. Getting Brashard Smith in the 7th round I think was absolutely tremendous value, but getting an All-American consensus corner that I think will absolutely fit in perfect with what Dave Merritt does. Noel Williams, I think, might just end up being the steal of the draft. They might have a couple of them. But I think just getting tremendous value again with that draft pick, and he seems like he's going to be an absolutely perfect fit for this defense.
Which of the day 2 and day 3 picks do you think has the most or the best chance to make the most impact right away for the Chiefs? Like week 1 and forward, they're out there making plays.
So it's a really good question because, I mean, of all the day 2 and day 3 picks, I think the one that is probably most day 1 ready is probably Jeffrey Basta. I think the question is obviously just where can he get on the field and how. There might be some specific packages that they can use him, but right now he would probably be the number 4 linebacker. Obviously, he's going to play every special teams. I think there's no doubt about that. He's good at that and great athlete. But if there's an injury and he gets on the field, that guy can play immediately. Omar Norman Lott's going to play immediately, so that might be the best bet, just because they're going to try and use him in some positions where he can get after the passer and get into the backfield. I think Noel Williams can compete to begin play immediately. And I mean, it would not surprise me if Brashard Smith started some games this year at running back. I think just through the injuries and attrition, I think there's actually a chance that he just wins the starting job outright at some point this season. I think he's going to be a really good fit for this offense.
Well, let's talk about Brashard Smith, because I was going to ask you about him, and then you tell me he might win the starting job outright. It's a crowded running back room all of a sudden with Kareem Hunt back in free agency and Elijah Mitchell signed in free agency, Isaiah Pacheco, Carson Steele holdovers. What separates Brashard Smith and gives him an opportunity to have that much impact as a rookie 7th round pick?
To me, it's just the big play ability. Obviously, he had a great 40 time, 4.39. Yes, Isaiah Pacheco is in that category as having that speed too, but what Brashard Smith possesses is the ability to maintain that speed while changing directions and get up to speed quickly. I mean, he can make people miss and break off big plays. Obviously, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can split out. There's so many things that he can do, and I think some people kind of get a kind of a little bit misnomer when Coach Lashley down there at SMU was talking about and comparing him and to Isaiah Pacheco. I don't think it's a style as much as it is just the ability to move around and do a lot of different things. And hey, you need somebody to be a 3rd down back to catch the ball out of the backfield. Brashard Smith can do that, and obviously that was a big role for Samaje Perine last year. Blocking, I've heard this a couple of times. It's like, hey, if he's going to be the 3rd down back, he's got to be able to block. Does he? Because it's like if he's on the field on 3rd down, I think what you want to try and do is throw the football to him. So, there's probably some things that he needs to be able to pick up, but he's, I think, the best suited to be that guy. And like I said, I mean, I think that as far as, you're talking about being a crowded backfield for sure, but with just the ability to do a lot of different things, to run the ball, to catch the ball, all of that, I think he's the most well-rounded. And if he can get up to speed, like I said, I think it's a tall task to probably win the job in week 1, but hey, if he's the best running back on this team by week 12, it would not surprise me.
Matt Derrick is joining us on 580 Sports Talk for this week's Chiefs Insider via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. You can go check out all of Matt's fantastic work at ChiefsDigest.com. And again, joins us every Friday at this time to talk all things Chiefs. I want to go back to Jeffrey Bassa for a moment, Matt. Does this draft pick signal that either Drew Tranquill or Leo Chanel is not going to be with the team past 2025. Chanel's going into a contract year. Meanwhile, for Tranquil, we know how much the Chiefs like him. He's the backup green dot and obviously a key part of the locker room, but he's also got almost nothing left in terms of guarantees after the 2025 season. Would you posture that Bassa is a replacement for at least one of those guys?
Certainly could be. I mean, linebacker wasn't on the list that the Chiefs felt like that they had to get this year. But when they got to the fifth round and Bassa was out there, it was kind of like Jaden Hicks last year, as far as you get to the fourth round and wait a minute, you're telling me that the best safety on the board is still available. This year it was like, okay, wait, you're telling me that one of the five best linebackers and maybe the most day one ready guy who can play all three spots is available in the fifth round. It was just too good of a value to pass up. So, yes, absolutely. I mean, is he there in case that, hey, Drew Tranquil is getting up in age, and if that's the time, and you need him to be able to take over? And that's the best comparison, because he does project maybe a little bit more as a will linebacker than anything else. He could probably play the Mike, but as long as the Chiefs have Nick Bolton and let's face it, they love Nick Bolton. They'd love to probably keep him even beyond the current contract that he's got, but you've got to think he's going to be here for the next 2 or 3 years. Is that Boss is more of an outside guy? Yeah. Is he a strong side guy like Leo? No, that's not really his deal. So you could really see him more as a future replacement for Drew Tranquil. And let's face it, Drew's closer to 30 than anybody else. So that's a reasonable possibility. I mean, and it's definitely an opportunity for the Chiefs to get younger and faster at that linebacker spot, and that's something they're always wanting to do on defense.
With the majority of free agency in the books, with the draft now in the rearview mirror as well, do you feel like the Chiefs were able to address all of their biggest needs this offseason?
I mean, they really seem to. I mean, the question is going to be, have they improved enough at those spots? Obviously, the big one's going to be left tackle, and they've taken a couple of cracks at it now. I think it still remains to be seen when Josh Simmons is going to be available. Certainly, realistically, it looks like he should be able to play some this season. How much he can play and whether he should play and how well he will play, I think are all legitimate questions. But Chiefs are banking a lot on Jalen Moore at least being serviceable and at that spot. And that's obviously, and with Josh Simmons, it's a move for the future. I mean, it's as much about 26 and beyond as it was about 25, because I'll tell you right now, I mean, if you told the Chiefs that Josh Simmons was not going to play it down this year, but that Jalen Moore was going to play well enough and Josh Simmons was going to get healthy enough that next year he's your left tackle and Jalen Moore's your right tackle, I think they would be ecstatic with that. That'd be a perfect plan. So that it might be a long term before we find out if they're if they're better enough at left tackle as much as they need to be for 2025. I think they're going to be better, certainly in special teams and in kick return. They've got maybe 3 or 4 more players who can return kicks, so I think that's interesting. They're deeper at running back, which was obviously attrition last year. They had a rough time when they had the injuries and get Kareem Hunt off the sofa to lead you in rushing. They shouldn't be in that kind of struggle this year. They got a lot of guys that can run the football. They've got depth at receiver, which was obviously a problem last year. The only thing I don't know is defensive line. I think that's going to be the tough one. They addressed corner, obviously, both in free agency and receiver. They've addressed defensive line in both ways as well. But, I think the question is, have they done enough at defensive tackle to replace what you're losing in Tershawn Wharton? I mean, they're obviously hoping that Omar Norman-Lott can do that. But, you probably still need some depth at defensive tackle. They've got more depth at defensive end, so that helps. But I could see that group, defensive line in particular, being a spot that maybe they still look for a veteran, especially if they get some injuries down the road.
I think a good and probably attainable goal, at least in theory, for the wide receiver room for the Chiefs this coming season, and Dan and I are on the same page on this, would be for Jalen Royals at some point, midway, week 12, whatever, to jump over Juju as wide receiver 4. And that's mostly because, Juju's body is just not in great shape because he's had all the injuries over his career, especially the various knee issues. I think Royals is good enough that he can at least move up the depth chart a little bit by the time we get to the midway or 2/3 way point of the season. Do you think that's possible for Jalen Royals? Is he going to get on the field enough to climb up the depth chart like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I mean he played primarily in the slot. I'm almost exclusively at Utah State, and just kind of one side of the line too. So you're going to need to branch him out. How quickly can he pick up other spots? Develop the route tree a bit more. Was he a guy you would even consider putting on the outside this year, or are you just going to focus on him as a slot receiver? If that's the case, he's going to be a little bit limited in your snaps. And if your X and your Z receivers on the outside this year are going to be Hollywood and Xavier Worthy, then that pretty much means the slot is also Rashee Rice's. So is Jalen Royals for 25 going to be your Rashee Rice backup, where maybe he is forced to play a little bit early, maybe Juju's for playing a little bit early in the slot until Rashee Rice is healthy or gets up to speed? We really don't know where he's at for sure, although it looks like he's ahead of schedule as far as coming back from that knee. But to me, it's really just how he fits in. And hey, if the Chiefs get some injuries again, and now Rice is playing more on the outside, I definitely think that Royals can move up and be the number one slot guy on this team. But it's just how much more can he be than that in year one?
Final question for Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. We got about a minute here, Matt. Of the UDFA class, who's a name or two to be keeping an eye on as rookie minicamp approaches? Somebody who didn't get selected in the draft but might have an outside chance of hanging in on the 53.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. To me, the number one with the bullet is Jared Bringenstool, the tight end from Clemson. He's incredible, really nice talent. Would have been a 5th round draft pick for a lot of teams on their boards, just the way sometimes the draft unfolds. But especially with Jared Wiley coming back from an injury, I think he's got a really good shot at competing for that number 3 tight end spot. The Chiefs like both of the offensive linemen that they brought in, and Dalton Cooper from Oklahoma State, and I always blank on the other kid's name. Oh, Esapole from Washington State. Those two, I know they're big on both of those guys. The kid from Penn State, the defensive tackle, Keziah Izzard, he's got a lot of potential too. The Chiefs put out some money. I mean, they were one of the bigger spenders as far as free agency goes, and especially giving some guaranteed money to some guys. So I think there's at least 4 or 5 that have really strong chances, and that doesn't even include like Glendon Miller, the defensive back from Maryland. I think Magdalena for the wide receiver from Fresno State, just like Nico Remigio. I mean, there's some other guys that compete. I mean, hey, 6 undrafted guys aren't going to make your roster, but could a bunch of these guys end up on your practice squad and be some people you count on later in the season? Yeah, absolutely.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com and joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. Enjoy the weekend. We'll do it again next week.
I appreciate you guys. Take care, my friends.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll step aside for a break, come back, wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk next. All right, changed my mind. I am, after hearing Matt talk about him, on the Brashard Smith hype train. Slow it down for me.
Andy Reid doesn't always love to trust rookies.
This is true.
And he's got multiple veterans who he clearly has trust in ahead of him. I want to believe. I'm that poster of the UFO. I want to believe because this team needs to get more. Needs to. But I just worry that Reed's going to trust the veterans who who are a known quantity at this point.
Looks like he's going to wear number 30, according to the Chiefs on social media. That's not a great running back number.
Oh, I like 30. I think
like
30 is good. That's Amon Green's number.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, we're talking Royals. We'll talk Kentucky Derby with Andy Weingarten and more on 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. 580 Sports Talk. Hour number 2 on this Friday afternoon. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski hanging out with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Great to be with you on this Friday. We've got an hour and a half left to hang out with you today as we are off at 5:30 tonight, making way for Royals baseball. The Royals open a 3-game set in Baltimore against the Orioles tonight. 6:05 scheduled first pitch, 5:30 pregame coverage on the Royals Baseball Network here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So we will be off half an hour early. Our weekend will start half an hour early this week.
Make something make sense for me with this Royals game tonight.
Sure.
The Royals are moneyline underdogs.
Uh-huh.
Why?
Orioles at home, coming off a win. Markets still believe that Baltimore team is the playoff team that they've been the last couple of years, and not the tied for second worst record in the American League team they have been through the first 30 games.
I guess. That's
my explanation. That's as coherent of one as I can give you.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I'm going to be honest with you. It's very, very strange.
We've got plenty of Royals to get to this hour. We're going to talk about this series, why these two teams now kind of feel like their meeting in the wild card round of last year's playoffs was a bit like two ships passing, because Kansas City has invested in the success of their baseball team and Baltimore has not. And to say that Baltimore has not is underselling it. It is incredible what they have allowed to happen to that roster. And not all of it is their fault, but enough of it is the fault of ownership and their general manager that you can't say they don't deserve the spot that they're in right now. Through 30 games, the only teams with worse records than the Baltimore Orioles, who, again, have been a playoff team, won 91 games last year and 101 the year before that. The only teams right now with worse records than the Orioles are the Pirates, the White Sox, and the Rockies. And those are the teams with the 3 worst ownership situations in baseball. Baltimore's owner gave out bobbleheads of himself at a game already this season.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
David Rubenstein bobblehead night. They weren't buried enough in the standings for them to be ritually destroyed in the Camden Yards bleachers, slathered with Boog's barbecue sauce and then lit on fire. But we'll talk about that, why it feels a little bit like those organizations are two ships passing. We'll also get some insight into the Kentucky Derby. It is coming up, the 151st Run for the Roses on Saturday at Churchill Downs. It's a 19-horse field. And when it's Kentucky Derby time, we have our Kentucky Derby correspondent, Andy Weingarten, who joins the program annually. We love talking to Andy about the ponies. We'll get Andy's thoughts on the race. Andy Weingarten, formerly of Wave TV in Louisville, formerly of WIBW TV here in Topeka, will join us at the bottom of this hour. The betting favorite as it stands, and many people have made the same joke I'm about to make, so maybe I'll just skip it because you've probably heard it. But the money line favorite right now in the Kentucky Derby is Journalism.
That's right.
Journalism is the favorite, at least until venture capitalists purchase the horse and then take it out behind the third turn and shoot it in the head.
As a Medill grad, it's about time that journalism is getting some respect. This is so funny. Everybody I know who is in media, journalism, print, whatever, is just living for the Derby this weekend.
Some of the famous horse owners in this year's Derby include Toby Keith. Toby Keith's estate.
I was going to say, you might want to sit down. I have some news for you.
No. No.
Toby's got the best seat in the house for this weekend, though.
Certainly. And Jason Worth, former Major League outfielder, has got a horse in this race as well. The Keith estate, I suppose, would be the more appropriate way to refer to the horse. I believe that one is Rendered Judgment. You can get him at 30-1 odds out of post 15. Anyway,
my horse Rendered Garments did not make it in the field.
We'll talk all about it. The names of the horses, the ones to watch. It's a fascinating race. Andy Weingarten will fill us in at the bottom of this hour. We'll have What Is Wrong With You as well. We'll crown our first May weekly champion. 2 new stories competing against yesterday's champ to move through as a short week champion on What Is Wrong With You. We want to hear from you. 785-272-9429 is the text line. Get at us in the live chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the channel.
There's some great names this year. Not only is there journalism, there's also publisher.
Fascinating.
Also for our NASCAR fans, and I know there are plenty in the 580 Sports Talk audience, Admire Daytona. You were doing that at the start of February. I know that's for sure. He's in the 6th spot. I suppose.
I definitely read Tis-tastic wrong the first time I came across it.
Yeah. I did as well.
Got to be careful with that one.
Sovereignty is a good one.
Unfortunately, horse out of the 4th post was scratched, but I love the name Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's tremendous. I do love that.
So, we'll have...
your boy Bob Baffert's back, too.
Yes, he is. My boy.
Your man's.
All right. What are we doing, PTI now? He's my boy?
That show has really influenced a lot of how my dad speaks at home, because he says that to my mom all the time. Like, yeah, your boy did this. He goes, why would he be my boy? It's very funny.
Again, 785-272-9429 is the number, or the text line number, and you can comment in the YouTube stream on 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to the Royals, though, I have to bring this up. There is a map running around today from the I believe the Wall Street Journal published this, and it defines the Midwest, the American Midwest, but a survey of people in American states where the question was, do you live in a Midwestern state? And some of these responses are driving me absolutely up and down a wall. For reference, the states that the United States Census Bureau considers to be Midwestern states are, from west to east, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. That's it. Those are census-defined Midwestern states. And by and large, people who live in those states agree with their categorization as Midwestern states. 97% of Minnesotans and Iowans believe that they live in a Midwestern state. 95% of Missourians, 94% of Wisconsinites and Illinoisans, 91% of Kansans believe that Kansas is a Midwestern state.
Surprisingly low.
I have questions for the other 9%.
Yeah. I agree with this categorization, by the way. I think the ones listed here by the Wall Street Journal and the Census Bureau, I think that is correct. Yeah, the census.
See, I have beef. I don't consider the Dakotas Midwestern. And you could argue me off of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan as northern states or upper Midwest, which is its whole different thing.
Interesting.
I think Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan have more in common with each other than they do with Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska. But
okay,
if you wanted to, you can argue me in the other direction. Anyway, that's what those are all states. Ohio had the lowest number of respondents who believe they live in a Midwestern state, 78%. After that, 66% of Oklahomans.
No,
I'm actually kind of inclined to agree. I would have considered them Midwestern.
And Oklahoma is just Texas. Oklahoma is Texas. That's your region.
Oklahoma
Texas.
is Texas's hat.
Also, you joined the SEC. You're not in the Midwest.
Oh, that's a great point.
Which also, Missouri, we got to have some talk.
Yeah, state flagship school joins the SEC. Then does that eject you from the Midwest? But
the Confederacy was not the Midwest. We know this to be certain.
Anyhow, Oklahoma, 66% say Oklahoma's in the Midwest. 54% of Wyoming residents consider themselves to be in the Midwest. That is insane. I lived in Wyoming. That state has nothing in common with Kansas and Nebraska, other states in which I have lived. There's nothing that those states have in common with each other.
No, not culturally or geographically.
No, there is nothing there are no ties that bind Wyoming to Midwestern states. None. Colorado, 42% of Coloradans. Everybody who responded and said that Colorado is a Midwestern state all moved to Colorado from an actual Midwestern state. They're all Illinois or Iowa or Michigan transplants.
Who all live near other Illinois and Iowa and Michigan transplants.
Yes, in River North.
Yeah, I don't consider Colorado to be the Midwest either.
31% of Kentuckians think they are a Midwestern state.
I believe that more than Wyoming or Colorado.
I bet that's like Northern Kentucky.
Oh yeah, that's people in the that's like Owensboro and Paducah.
Like if you're in the holler, you probably don't think you're in the Midwest. But like if you live where you can see Cincinnati from your front door, I can understand that. 27% of Arkansans think they're in the Midwest.
No, sorry.
30% of Montanans.
See, that one's the craziest one to me. There is nothing no, absolutely not.
Speaking of states that have nothing in common with the rest of the Midwest.
Yeah, nothing at all.
25% of Idahoans consider themselves in the Midwest. That to me says there are 25% of respondents who misheard the question and didn't hear the mid part.
Like, because they're in between Montana, Washington, Oregon, like they're in the middle of the West, maybe. That one does not make any sense to me.
No, absolute nonsense. 13% of West Virginians, 10% of Tennesseans, 9% of Pennsylvanians think that they live in a Midwestern state.
See, that's just confusing Midwest with Rust Belt.
Yeah, that's probably true. Or again, it's the same theory behind Kentucky. Like if it's West Virginia, like you're on the border of Ohio, or if you're Pennsylvania and you're Western PA. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm listening.
See, like you have to do this by state. I think you could break this down really if you wanted to, like by county. I don't think Western South Dakota or Western North Dakota, like I would draw the line there.
I don't think any of the Dakotas are Midwestern. I'm sorry.
But like I don't think strongly consider like Southwest Kansas, like with all the factories and plants and stuff, that feels like Rust Belty to me. It's not the Rust Belt, but like kind of Midwestern manufacturing, like that actually does feel very Midwest to me out in that part of the state. I don't know what's going on in the Nebraska Panhandle. Not a lot.
No, not a lot.
I would not really consider that super Midwestern, but you tie it in. Because like along the I-35 corridor and a little bit west, like Sioux Falls is a Midwestern city. I would say Fargo and Grand Forks fit the ethos a little bit.
So do we want to draw boundaries by like interstates? Could do that.
I kind of do.
I could do that.
Like, I just don't think that and I don't even know what interstate you'd be looking at in that part.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that 90 that goes through South Dakota? That would make
90 does, yeah.
That would make sense.
Because 80 goes through Iowa. So 90 would go through South Dakota.
So south of 90, I'm having trouble believing any of that is Midwestern.
North of 90?
No, yeah, north of 90, not Midwest.
Yeah, that's fair.
North of 90, no.
Yeah, like I've been to Aberdeen, South Dakota. I didn't really consider that Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's fair. That's fair. North south, you're probably talking I-29. That takes you through Fargo. That's like right up the North Dakota Minnesota border.
Okay, yeah, I will listen to. Yeah, Fargo does feel like a Midwest, but maybe that's like the movie edition version of Fargo.
All right, so this would include all of South Dakota. I-94 goes through Fargo, going westward, east-west.
Mm-hmm.
And I-29 goes through Fargo, north-south.
Sure.
I would kind of consider that like the vertex of the Midwest.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay, I'm listening.
I guess Bismarck is farther west. I don't really know what's in Bismarck. It's the capital, Bismarcky. I don't really know what's going on in Bismarck, North Dakota, though.
Texter from the 785 says the Colorado and Wyoming people that think they live in the Midwest are probably those east of the Rockies. No, then you're in a plain state. Like,
yeah, then you're just like in western Nebraska.
I have lived east of the Rockies in Colorado. I do not consider, I don't know anybody who considered that the Midwest. I don't. Like, it's not just like geographically. It's about a value system.
There's a cultural part of it.
Yes, there's a cultural aspect of it that is just completely absent in Wyoming.
My wife doesn't believe that at least the Chicago portion of Illinois is the Midwest, which I always fight her on.
Yeah,
she does not believe it.
That's outrageous.
She splinters it into Great Lakes and Midwest as separate things.
Okay, so I do. I consider upper Midwest. Like I could talk upper Midwest, but Illinois in Chicago to me is still like that. That is the capital of the Midwest.
Yes, thank you, thank you. That's like the cultural center. Anyway. Every region has something like that.
Anyway, that
for the Rocky states, it's Denver.
Yes, those are the Mountain West or the Great Plains states.
To the west, it's Los Angeles. For the up northeast, it's New York. For the southeast, it's probably Atlanta, maybe Charlotte.
Yes, Atlanta is the capital.
Probably Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta for sure. Anyway, let's talk some baseball, shall we? I just had to get that out of my head and out into the ether.
0 people in Maryland consider themselves the Midwest.
Correct.
Fitting for this series with the Orioles.
There will be some Midwesterners in Baltimore as the Royals come to town for a 3-game series. And it is fascinating to consider the trajectory of these two organizations coming off of, you go even as far back as the 2023 season. The Orioles won 101 games in 2023, and the Royals, of course, lost 106. Since then, the Royals have been on an upward trajectory, and the Orioles have been on a downward trajectory. The Orioles are 12-18. If you're wondering how they're 12-18, look no further than their pitching staff. They're carrying a 5.47 team ERA, and most of that damage is being done by their starting pitching. Their best pitcher is Zach Eflin. He's hurt. Their second best pitcher is Grayson Rodriguez. He is also hurt. Their most expensive pitcher is Charlie Morton. He's not a starter anymore because his ERA starts with a 9, and he leads the American League in walks. Their second most expensive pitcher is Tomoyuki Sugano. The Royals are going to see him. They've already seen him this year. They're going to see him again tomorrow night. And Sugano's got an ERA of an even 3, but a FIP over 5 because he's not missing any bats. He's striking out fewer than 5 guys per 9. And again, that is the second most expensive starting pitcher for Baltimore. They just brought Kyle Gibson back as a street free agent. All he did in his first start, give up 5 home runs to the Yankees. The Royals see him on Sunday. Starting pitching is what gives teams confidence. I said this last year, going into the 2024 Royals season, that the biggest thing the Royals did that gave you hope that they could improve was that they fortified their starting pitching rotation to the point where they had, on opening day, 4 established major league starters where you felt like that guy goes to the mound and we can win. They had signed Michael Watkins, Seth Lugo to go with Brady Singer and Cole Reagans, and you believed you could win behind those 4 guys. It's why that investment was so crucial in their ascent and why it was so crucial that they reinvested this past offseason, extending Waka, bringing Michael Lorenzen back. The Orioles last year, they won 101 games, and then they traded for Corbin Burnes, a bona fide ace. And they gave up quite a bit to get him, even though he only had 1 year left on his contract. A bona fide ace at the top of the rotation. They had Grayson Rodriguez. He got hurt after 20 starts. They had Kyle Bradish. He got hurt after 8 starts. He's going to come back later this year, but you never know with Tommy John. They traded for Zach Eflin, who's been a solid pitcher. They had a bona fide ace at the top. They could piece together a group behind him, even as injuries hit. But then this offseason comes, and the Orioles don't pay Corbin Burnes. And they don't pay their 40-homer stud in the middle of their order, Anthony Santander, either. Instead, they replace 2 players who produce like superstars with Charlie Morton, who is 41 years old and is pitching like it.
You got moved to the bullpen.
Yes. And in the outfield, to replace Santander, they chose the perpetually injured Tyler O'Neill, who is not going to play in this series because he is currently on the injured list. But on the bright side, the owner did pony up for some bobbleheads of himself that they gave away on April 19th.
That is crazy.
At Camden Yards. Those bobbleheads might have cost him more money than it did to sign Morton and O'Neill. and O'Neal's hurt, and Morton's out of the rotation. So that's how you get to where the Orioles have gotten now, where they're already in trouble behind the rest of the East and chasing teams that did their best by their financial means to be competitive. And the Orioles just said, we've got a bunch of guys making $15 an hour plus tips. Adley Rutschman's on his arbitration money. Gunnar Henderson is pre-arbitration. Jordan Westberg is pre-arbitration. Jackson Holiday is pre-arbitration. We're just not going to add to that. We're just going to cheap out. And here they are, 12-18. And just be grateful for John Sherman is essentially what I'm saying here. Be grateful for the approach that the Royals took to add to their roster. Be grateful that when they promised Bobby Witt Jr., when he signed that 14-year extension, we are going to do everything we can to put a winner behind you, that they have walked the walk. Maybe not to the extent that you would have liked, but they have certainly invested in their roster, and they have invested in starting pitching, and they have raised their floor substantially as a result. And the Orioles' refusal to do that in a much tougher and much more financially competitive division has them here and getting late early already for a team that should be, with the collection of young talent that they have, one of the best in baseball. And the fact that it's not is negligence on the part of ownership and their front office.
No, I would agree. And there's a lot of chatter right now that one guy who I believe he has continued to play pretty well, Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, he's their best hitter right now.
He's had a really good, he had a down year last year, but he's been a good player. He's had a really good year. In the final year of his cheat money, his arbitration money, he's only getting paid $8 million, which, you know, to you and me is a massive amount of money, but to a baseball player of his caliber, it's obviously on the low end. There's plenty of chatter that they're going to try to move him at some point this year. And if they don't turn it around, they almost certainly will. He is at 30 this season, but he's already been worth more than one win above replacement this year. OPS of 927. That's a great number. Even if you don't know much about that stat, know that it's a great number. Can Royals get in on that? I don't know what it'll cost, but could the Royals get in on that? Move him to right field? Move Isbell to right field? Just bench Isbell. I don't care. Go get that dude.
Baltimore can have Kyle Isbell if you go get a rental of Cedric Mullins. Yes.
Right. So that's the kind of player that, like, you should say, hey, we want you to play your whole career here, and because you're fun and you're good and you offer a lot in the field and at the plate. And we've got a bunch of other dudes, and we can build a winning roster with you and Henderson and Rutschman, and actually we're going to let you walk. Also, we're not going to have anyone who can pitch. Good luck.
It's unbelievable.
Like, you've got to feel so crappy if you're an Orioles fan, because you were crap. I'm not making fun. They were crap.
3 straight 100-loss seasons, and that undersells how unpleasant those. Oh, yeah. 3 out of 4 because of 2020.
Right. And
that undersells just how unpleasant they were in 18, 19, and 21. Because they didn't just lose 100. They lost 115 and 108, and then the COVID year, and then they lost 110. And they hit big with their draft picks. It's
over and over. It's
almost the opposite of the Royals, where the Royals ended up in those draft periods with Bobby Witt Jr. and then not a whole lot else to show for it. Like the 2018 draft obviously panned out pretty good. Late bloomers for some of those arms, but
where's Asa Lacy?
Yes. Where is Asa Lacy? Where is Nick Prado? Nick Prado's never seen the major leagues again, unless it's an emergency. Like, the Orioles hit after hit after hit after hit, player development and drafting. Like, an incredible
dream.
The reason that you lose all those games is to accumulate. That's the idea behind it. That's the selling point behind it. We're going to lose like crazy, and at the end, we're going to get all these top picks, and they're all going to be stars. And Gunnar Henderson looks like a star. He's off to a slow start this year, but he's still a league average hitter, even struggling. He looks like a star. And Adley Rutschman looks like a star. And Jackson Holiday is hitting at an above-average clip to start his first full year in the bigs. And Jordan Westberg looks like he's going to be around for a long time. And they've cashed in some guys that they drafted in recent years to go acquire players that could help them try to win. But when it comes to putting your money behind a young roster and bolstering a young roster and taking advantage of your competitive window, they have been a complete and utter failure in a way that, frankly, is embarrassing. And so just remember that when you're watching the Orioles and watching the Royals try to get after Dean Kramer tonight, who's got an ERA of 7 Tomo Sugano, who doesn't miss any bats, and Kyle Gibson, who gave up 5 home runs in his season debut this past week. That's who the Royals get to swing at this weekend. So a great opportunity to keep the momentum moving forward offensively. And if they can win this series, it's a dynamite road trip. And it helps them keep pace with Detroit, who is red hot, and they're getting to play the Angels right now. And don't look now, but Javi Baez is hitting over 290 and playing above average center field defense.
It's all they needed. Move them to center.
Yeah. So maybe there is a really, really good team in the Central, and the Royals are going to need to keep pace. Saturday night game's on Fox, by the way. For people who don't know, that'll be a national TV game in the area, which will be cool. Anyway, let's take a break. Andy Weingarten's going to join us in just a bit to preview the Kentucky Derby. But first, we got What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. It's brought to you by our pal Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle.
What's up, Mo?
You know how valuable it is if you're a sports fan to get Big Mo on your side. It's also valuable in the insurance and financial services world to do so as well. So give Mo a call, 785-273-1572. Our current weekly champ, the Delco Pooper. There was a road rage incident in Philadelphia, and a 42-year-old woman got out of her car, walked over to another car, climbed the hood, and took a crap on the hood of the car.
Thanks to our good friend sponsoring this segment, let's talk about a dump.
The Delco Pooper. Going to be tough to dethrone, but we got 2 new stories today. Brendan, I'll let you go first. This was a story that was submitted by a texter from the 785.
This was, let me pull it up here. We actually found this independently of each other, so it actually meshed really well. Also, I heard you say dethrone. We're talking about the toilet.
Yes, I did.
All right, so we are going down to Florida, where just days after claiming a $167.3 million Powerball jackpot, Kentucky and Florida here, a Kentucky man is now behind bars, charged with kicking a cop in the face during a melee at an oceanfront hotel in Florida. According to court records, 50-year-old James Farthing, an ex-convict, was arrested Tuesday evening on felony misdemeanor charges in connection with the fracas at the Tradewinds Resort in St. Pete Beach. Farthing was at the resort with his girlfriend, Jacqueline Fightmaster. What a name. As seen in a photo included in the report, Farthing and Fightmaster appeared Tuesday at a Kentucky Lottery press conference announcing their Powerball win. Farthing is splitting it with his 77-year-old mother. Farthing won on an April 26th Powerball drawing with a ticket purchased at a pumpkin shop in Georgetown, Kentucky. Then, Tuesday evening, one day after posing with an oversized jackpot winner check, Farthing punched a male victim in the face during an argument at Tradewinds. Subsequent to that alleged battery, a sheriff's deputy sought to break up an in-progress fight between Farthing and the patron. While interceding in the brawl, a deputy reported being kicked in the face by Farthing. After reviewing body camera footage, the deputy said he observed the defendant winding his right leg and kicking your affiant in the face in an attempt to injure or incapacitate myself. The deputy then said the kick caused him, quote, pain in my face.
I bet.
Yeah, I would guess. So yeah, this dude got kind of crazy, this ex-con who won the lottery and kicked a police officer in the face.
Yeah, he also is still in prison due to a Kentucky parole violator warrant.
I'm going to guess his mother is going to get all of these winnings. Just a hunch.
Listen, man, like if I won $167.3 million in one shot, you'd never see or hear from me again. Never mind mixing it up with some police at a resort in St. Pete Beach. I'm going to beaches you've never heard of.
Right.
With that kind of money. I'm going to beaches you've never heard of in countries you can't pronounce, languages you don't speak, and I'm eating animals you never heard of.
Yeah, no kidding. What do you got today?
All right. My story today goes to Arcadia, Florida. Deputies are looking for a woman who they say stole an adult tricycle from a residence on Southeast Plum Drive. She was seen on a doorbell camera wearing a tiger print onesie in the commission of the crime. Thanks to social media, the suspect was quickly identified as Emily Hesters. Attempts to locate her have been unsuccessful. Her voicemail is full. Her old address says she's, quote, not welcome, and the tricycle remains missing. If you spot someone riding off in a tiger onesie on a tricycle, call the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office.
No relation to Matthew Pancake.
No, that was a leopard print onesie that our guy Matthew Pancake had on. Anyway, yeah, definitely the Powerball winner.
The Powerball Punisher, yeah.
Yeah, the Powerball Punisher. His girlfriend's last name is Fightmaster. That goes so crazy.
I'm going to give this one the win. This dude had literally a free ticket to whatever he wanted the rest of his life. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to kick a cop in the face. I'm going to get liquored up, probably, allegedly, and I'm going to kick a police officer in the face. I'm going to go with this one.
For the week?
For the week.
For the week. Wow. Over the Delco pooper.
$167 million. And now he's going to jail.
Man, like 5 days after he bought the winning ticket, and he just couldn't stay out of trouble. Like,
you've been in prison, man. You know what it's like. You know how valuable freedom is?
14 years in prison already. And yeah, it's your ticket out, man. Like, what are you thinking about?
$167 million.
I didn't think we would beat the Delco pooper, but I do. I'm coming around to your line of thinking here. The Powerball Punisher. Also, I'm not over his girlfriend's last name. Like
Fightmaster. That rules.
If I were marrying into the Fightmaster family, I might have taken my wife's last name
right.
if it were Fightmaster. That's our winner. What is wrong with you? The Powerball Punisher. He wins the week. What is wrong with you? Brought to you by Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. The phone number is 785-273-1572. We're back after this with Andy Weingarten previewing the Kentucky Derby. 440 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Brendan with you this afternoon. Tomorrow, the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs. And when it is Kentucky Derby time, we welcome in our Kentucky Derby correspondent here on 580 Sports Talk, formerly of Wave TV in Louisville and WIBW TV here in Topeka. Our pal Andy Weingarten joins the show. Andy, so wonderful to hear from you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Great to be back. Another year. This will be year 38. I think I've done this 38 straight years with WIBW Radio. It's been a great run.
We love it. 38 years. It's a great tradition, something that we always look forward to, and I know our listeners do here on the program. So let's go ahead and get right into it. This 151st Kentucky Derby. And one thing that stands out about some of the pre-race storylines, the storyline that stands out the most to me, the Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles long, and none of the horses in this race have run that distance in a race yet. How rare is that?
Well, actually, with respect to the Derby and 3-year-olds, that's always the case every year, because all of the prep races leading up to the Derby are usually a mile or a mile and an eighth. So, with respect to the 3-year-olds, a mile and a quarter, they've never run it, and likely never will until they get to the Derby. Those actually mile and a quarter races become more popular as they get older. 4, 5, 6-year-old horses, those that are still running, run those races a little more. And of course, later in the summer, they'll have some of those. But this is the first time any of them have gone a mile and a quarter.
Yeah, it's a field entirely comprised of 3-year-old horses. You don't have any of the younger ones that have maybe raced that distance, but or older ones, I suppose. So it is a field that is a big field. It was originally 21 horses. There have been a couple scratches. We're down to, I believe, 19 in the field. And we'll start with the one that everyone's talking about as the consensus favorite at 3-1 odds right now, Journalism. Why is Journalism the favorite?
Well, for two reasons. Number one, the horse is 6-0, never lost. And 3 of those 6 races that he won last year as a 2-year-old were at Churchill Downs. So, undefeated, familiar with the track. I think he's a very, very worthy favorite. Of course, favorites have a hard time in a 20-horse field. If this was an 8-horse field, I think he'd be the consensus favorite. But there's so much traffic in this year, 19-horse field. Traffic can always be an issue. Best horse doesn't often win.
We're talking to Andy Weingarten, our horse racing expert here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, formerly of WIBW here in Topeka and WAVE in Louisville. We love bringing Andy on the show to talk all about the ponies during the Triple Crown season, especially the Kentucky Derby. What are we looking at in regard to the quality of the track and the type of track we're going to be getting at Churchill Downs coming up tomorrow evening?
Very possible it's going to be a wet or muddy track. In fact, we just had a line of thunderstorms come through within the last hour to the point where they're delaying the Kentucky Oaks by about 15 minutes. I guess they're going to try and rake it up a little bit, but it's not going. It should be running here in about 5 minutes, but they're going to run it just after 6 o'clock. We're expecting more rain tonight, more rain first half of tomorrow. So if we get the inch or inch and a half we're expecting, it's very possible it's going to be a wet track. And that just makes it even more difficult to handicap, in my opinion, because when you're dealing with a large field and you're looking for come-from-behind horses, which are typical in the Derby, all that mud that gets thrown at them, from the front runners, just makes it that more difficult.
We'll get your official win play show picks in just a moment, but knowing that that's what the track is going to look like in all likelihood coming up tomorrow, what's a name or two that stands out to you as maybe somebody, one of the horses that may have something of an advantage or, less of a disadvantage anyway, dealing with conditions like that?
Well, interestingly enough, the horse that was just scratched today, Grande, in fact, I was going to place him third until he was scratched.
Oh.
That's one. The Baffert horse that was scratched day before yesterday was another one that a lot of people were talking about. So it's kind of now everybody's scrambling to try and find another mud horse, because those were really the two that a lot of people, I think, were looking at if it was going to be a wet track.
You mentioned just a moment ago, Bob Baffert. He is back. The ban is over. The suspension is over. He is back at Churchill Downs, back for the Kentucky Derby. If I'm not mistaken, because Rodriguez, the 4-horse, got scratched, I believe he only has one in the field. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Andy. I believe it's just Citizen Bull, the 1-horse, with 14-1 odds going into this one. What is the vibe around the event this year like with Bob Baffert back? Have you heard from folks who are in the know at the Kentucky Derby? Like, is it as if he never left? Or are they just kind of ignoring what happened? Is he kind of wearing the scarlet letter right now? What are some of the attitudes toward Bob Baffert as he returns to the Derby?
I think most people is kind of forgive and forget. At the beginning, when he first showed up, I think it was all the buzz. About 10 days ago when he finally showed up with his horse, and it was a big deal. But as they've gotten into Derby week, it becomes more business-like.
Mm-hmm.
You're training your horse, everybody's preparing, and I'm sure when NBC runs their 5 hours of coverage tomorrow, they'll spend a few minutes on the Bob Baffert situation. But I think it's more business-like now after the first day.
I'm very curious, as we're talking to Andy Weingarten, our horse racing expert here on 580 Sports Talk, formerly of WIBW TV and Wave TV in Topeka and Louisville, respectively, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. What does practice look like for the Derby? Like, how much are these horses running in the lead up? Because it's not like it's, one race and that's it. I mean, there's obviously a whole day of racing tomorrow. You've got the Oaks today that's coming up, as you said, in here in just a second. What does the practice and the preparation actually look like for these horses going into this event?
Well, the day of, there's not much. I mean, they're basically, they maybe get out just to walk a little bit in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They won't come onto the track tomorrow at all during the day until they actually come in for the race itself. But they make sure they're properly fed, and the shoes look good. Make sure there's no injuries. So the vets are checking them over. That's the day of. So there's not a whole lot that goes on. It's kind of akin to if Kansas is playing the 9:30 game on Thursday night for the NCAA tournament, they've got to wait all day before they're able to get out there and play. Now they do get out a couple of days before. They'll do some light jogging. They call them breezes, where they may run a half mile, 3/4, certainly not a full, but just to get a feel for the track. And that happens all week during Derby week. Usually 4 or 5 horses a morning will get out there and do that. But the day of, a lot of rest and a lot of anticipation.
All right, Andy, I'm not quite to 38 years doing this segment with you, but I'm in year 8 here as one of our hosts here on 580 Sports Talk. And I've got to ask, before we let you go, before we get your official picks here, I've got to ask for your favorite long shot. There's a couple that have some fairly long odds. Neo Equos, the 2-horse, 50-1. Admire Daytona, 42-1. Owen Almighty coming in at 40-1 right now. Are any of the extreme long shots any interesting to you? And who is your favorite long shot this year?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually think of those, Owen Almighty might be the funnest of the bunch. Don't be surprised if he's leading the first at least half of the race. He's got a lot of speed. Loves to run up to the front early. Coming out of the number 20 hole or 19 hole will not be a problem for him. It's just a matter of whether he can hang on. The assumption is he can't. But again, if it's a wet track and all that mud is getting flying into the face of the other horses, maybe he can do it a wire to wire. But the Owen Almighty of the longest shots, I didn't put him in my top 3, but I do have one long shot in my top 3. He just wasn't the one.
All right, Andy Weingarten joining us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline to preview the 151st Kentucky Derby. It's time to get your picks. We'll go in reverse order, win, place, show. We'll start with your show horse, your third place finisher for the Derby on Saturday. Who do you like to show?
Okay, I'm always looking for horses that are closing at the end, a horse that you probably only hear mentioned once or twice at the very beginning, and then all of a sudden at the end of the race they end up finishing third and you wonder where they came from. I like the 19 horse Chunk of Gold, which was 30-1 in the morning line. I think he's 28-1 now. Great closing horse. Has been second in the last two races to pretty decent horses in this race. And so I like him to finish third.
Chunk of Gold to Show.
I love that name.
Yeah, that's one of the better names, certainly, in the field. How about the place, your runner-up for the Derby?
This was going to be my winning horse up until about 45 minutes ago, and I changed my mind. But I like Sandman. I really like that. He'll be the second choice probably behind Journalism. Sandman, the one issue about him, he tends to fall a little too far back. And then when he tries to rally, he can come up a little bit short. But I really like, I love his running style in general. So if he doesn't fall too far behind, I think he can make a real run at it. And I like Sandman, the 17 horse, to finish second.
Jose Ortiz riding that horse, Sandman, an accomplished jockey, certainly. Now the winner. Let's hear it, Andy. Who is going to win the Kentucky Derby on Saturday?
You're probably assuming I picked Journalism, and I didn't. So I think he's a noble horse. He may be the best of the bunch, but he's 6-0, and with all that, all of the traffic and the possible mud, this could be the one where he just doesn't run well. Another interesting fact: the last 4 Derby winners have all had odds of 10-1 or better. So I wanted to look for a double-digit odds horse. I found one, the 14 horse, Tis-tastic, at 18-1. And that's who I'm picking to win the Kentucky Derby.
So there you have it. Tis-tastic to win the Derby. The place horse, Sandman, the show horse, Chunk of Gold. Those are Andy Weingarten's picks.
How about that little fact about those longer odds? That's what we bring you on for, Andy. That's the good stuff right there.
That is why.
It's too easy to pick the favorites when they don't finish in half the time. By the way, as always, do your exacta or trifecta box on those 3 horses, and you'll be able to retire.
There you have it. Andy Weingarten is our Kentucky Derby correspondent on 580 Sports Talk. Andy, it is always such a blast to hear from you around Triple Crown season. We enjoy getting to know this great sporting event even better through your eyes and your insight. Thank you again for taking the time, and enjoy the race tomorrow.
As always, we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
That is Andy Weingarten.
He's the best.
That is a lot of fun. Tis-tastic to win. I'll give you my board here. You got your win, play, show picks?
I do.
Okay. I will go Baeza to place out of the 21 post. I will say Journalism to place. Journalism second. And I've got Luxor Cafe 15-1. Japanese horse. I'll take Luxor Cafe 15-1 to win it.
All right. I wrote down where my winner is. Hold on. I got to pull this up. Make sure I have the right one here. I am going to go to win the race. Give me. Where did I have my note go? Literally had this written down. Hold on. You know what? Let's come back and during On Second Thought, I'll give you my pick.
All right. We'll get Brendan's picks after this timeout on 580 Sports Talk. Well, on second thought, Brendan's found his Kentucky Derby pick.
Yes, and I was a little bit worried here. My original show horse was Rodriguez, who's been scratched. So I knew I had to make a change there. So I am going to go with Citizen Bull, the Baffert horse. I'm going with him to win, even out of the 1. I'm also on journalism to place. And I'm going to take Andy's advice as my replacement show horse. I'm going with his favorite long shot, Owen Almighty. 40-1.
Citizen Bull out of the 1. Do you know the last time that a horse won out of the number 1 of the Kentucky Derby? I was not yet born.
1961. Old Horse Radburn picked up the win.
Now, none of that is true. It was 1986, the last time. What was it? We had a Triple Crown winner in 86? Would that have been Seattle Slew in 86? Or am I making
Seattle
that up?
Slew was before that. Because nobody won the Triple Crown after 78, I thought.
Ferdinand was your 86 Kentucky Derby winner.
Franz?
No. Ferdinand.
He was long since dead.
No. He, 1987 Horse of the Year, 1986 Kentucky Derby winner. Last one to win out of the 1.
So, yeah, on second thought, originally I shouldn't have picked one of my 3 horses as one that got scratched.
On second thought, I kind of thought the Los Angeles Lakers had the juice to make a run in the Western Conference. But as it turns out, it's bad when you do not have an actual center.
Yeah, still important in today's game.
As it turns out, when you don't have a center, Rudy Gobert can play like Moses Malone for 48 minutes.
There are a lot of K-State basketball fans right now saying, we know.
That's a fact. They don't have a center right now. We got 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up next hour. Then we're done. We're handing up the baton to the Royals Baseball Network at 5:30. So come on back with us for the final half hour of 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Final half hour of the day and the week on 580 Sports Talk here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, 580WIBW.com. We are also live on YouTube. Our channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can also watch us on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Warzinski rocking with you for another half hour, 24 minutes until we pass the baton to the Royals Baseball Network. The Royals 3-0 on this 6-game road trip through the American League East. Tonight open a 3-game set in Baltimore against the Orioles, a rematch of last year's wild card playoff series. Pre-game coverage again starting at 5:30 with the first pitch set for 6:05.
So this weekend, Sunday, is May 4th. So the Star Wars nerd in your life will come up to you and say, "May the 4th be with you," and they'll think it's really funny. Humor them. Be nice to them on their favorite day of the year. A lot of baseball teams are going to do promotions for May 4th, Star Wars-themed promotions.
Sure.
That includes the Baltimore Orioles, who are going to have several different Star Wars-themed food options. That includes the Dark Side Dog with Vader taters.
Okay.
All beef hot dogs, including chorizo chili, cheese sauce, black garlic hot honey, and blackened fries. Here's the kicker with this particular food item. To match Darth Vader's red lightsaber, the bun is red.
How did they make the bun red?
I'm going to guess food dye, but I don't know for sure. Also available, the ham solo burger, not really working there. Double smash patties with cheddar Swiss and cheddar cheese sauce topped with pit ham. The Sarlacc cakes, like the Sarlacc pit, fried calamari with cherry peppers and peppercini garlic aioli topped with a crab cake.
Okay.
And the 7 Leia dip.
I'm gonna keep it all the way real with you. I'd eat every single one of those.
That also at that same,
even the red bun.
Oh, okay. So the 7 Leia dip is at the Warehouse Bar and Restaurant. I believe that's in right field.
Yeah. Yep.
That comes with Scooper Troopers. That's an entirely different movie franchise. That's not Star Wars, brother. The Ronto wrap and the Wookiee cookie ice cream sandwich. All right, now that I would house. They're also doing giveaways, including the Colton Cowser Star Wars bobblehead giveaway today. Saturday is the Orange Out. That's not Star Wars themed. And then Sunday, May the 4th be with you fans get a Gunnar Henderson Star Wars bobblehead.
Oh, there you go. Royals are doing a Luke Skywalker bobblehead, I believe, on the next homestand.
Okay.
For their Star Wars Day, a Michael Waka bobblehead. He's dressed like...
That's better than the ham solo burger. That's not how you say his name.
No, it's not. But
no one spells ham like ham.
Steamed hams. Anyhow, that's what's going on this weekend in Baltimore. Hopefully what also is going on, a couple more Royals wins on this road trip. We'll start our 580 Sports Talk headlines with tonight's starting lineups. No Salvador Perez in the lineup tonight for the Royals. He left yesterday's game in Tampa Bay with hip soreness, left hip soreness. And it's enough of a concern that the Royals have purchased the contract of catcher Luke Maile from AAA Omaha, creating space on the 40-man roster by moving Alec Marsh to the 60-day injured list. That just means that Marsh can't be activated before the end of May, which was already kind of the plan anyway, best case scenario. Tyler Tolbert was optioned back down to AAA to make room on the 26-man roster. So no Salvi in the lineup today, and I'd be surprised if he does any catching this weekend if the Royals were concerned enough about that to purchase Maile's contract. The Royals will start Jonathan India in left field, Bobby Witt Jr. at short, Vinny Pasquantino at first base. Michael Garcia moves into the cleanup spot, and he'll play third base tonight. Michael Massey bats fifth at second base. Mark Canna's the DH, batting sixth. Drew Waters in right field, bats seventh. Freddie Fermin will do the catching and bat eighth. Kyle Isbell's in center field, backing the aforementioned Michael Waka, who will face a lefty-heavy lineup for the Orioles. Cedric Mullins leading off in center field. Gunnar Henderson at short. Adley Rutschman behind the plate, batting third. Ex-Royal Ryan O'Hearn, who remains good, is the DH, batting cleanup. Ryan Mountcastle bats fifth, plays first base. Jackson Holliday at second base. Ramon Laureano in left. Heston Kjerstad in right, bats eighth. And another ex-Royal, Emmanuel Rivera, will play third base and bat ninth. Those are the lineups.
Taking a bunch of Royals from bad Royals teams was not exactly a genius roster building move.
Hey, man, it worked for Ryan O'Hearn. Good for him.
It did work for him.
You know, there were some guys that escaped royal purgatory, which the organization was at the time, and like you could do some damage if the middle of your order were Ryan O'Hearn and Brent Rooker. Like that'd be a pretty good foundation for your lineup if you had those two guys. Neither of them are great in the field, but boy, they mash. Anyway, that's our first headline. Brendan, what's your first headline today?
Can we stick with the Royals here for a little bit?
Sure.
Let's do the Royals player and pitcher of the month. Bobby Witt Jr., your player of the month, and Chris Bubich, your Royals pitcher of the month. I've been marinating on a Bobby Witt Jr. take that we'll get to at some point later this season, I'm sure, about where he ranks as in terms of the best Royals of all time. Doesn't have the legacy quite yet because the Royals haven't won anything yet, but spoiler, I think he's like right next to George Bragg. Anyway, he was fantastic so far this season, which includes one game in the month of May. Bobby Witt Jr. has already been worth 2 wins above replacement. That is remarkable. 12 doubles is the best mark in the majors. He's got an 896 OPS with a 400 on base percentage. He plays every single day. He's got speed. He drives in runs. He's been tremendous. That was an easy pick right there. As for Chris Bubich, I think let me ask you, because you've been as bullish on Chris Bubich as a starter as anyone. Has he surpassed your hopes and expectations for him so far this year?
I wasn't sure how he'd take to starting, if that would maybe limit his effectiveness, change the effectiveness that we started to see from him out of the bullpen. And to a certain level, it has. His strikeouts are down and his walks are up from where they were as a reliever, but it's still a over 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, and he's still striking over a batter per inning. And yeah, you take that. Like he is pitching better than he ever had before as a starter. And I've been very, very impressed.
2.25 ERA so far this season for Bubich with a 2-2 record. He's going right at 6 innings per start so far. As Dan mentioned, strikeouts a little bit down, walks a little bit up. Much higher volume this year. He's already pitched more innings this year than he did all of last year when he came back from Tommy John and obviously pitched in relief down the stretch of last season. The peripheral numbers is not just, 225, but the underlying numbers indicate, he should be giving up 5 earned runs a game or something. No, his fielding independent pitching number, the FIP, the FIP, if you will, that is under 3 at a 2.89. That's scaled to the same degree that ERA is. So under 3, really, 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 really good. You also want your ERA and your fielding independent to mirror each other effectively. In terms of the other underlying numbers, things from StatCast, really good. Not giving up a ton of hard contact, is getting guys to chase and swing and miss a decent amount, still above league average in terms of how often he's striking guys out. He's been great. He's been awesome so far this year. His breaking ball, his curveball or sweeper, I should say, one of the most valuable pitches in all of baseball so far. Top 10% value in that sweeper so far this year.
And it's a relatively new pitch. He's just been a completely different guy since Brian Sweeney became the pitching coach and the Royals essentially changed their approach to how they were developing pitchers. I don't think it's a coincidence that a guy who went to Stanford has been able to synthesize the data that he's been given by his team and turn himself into the best possible version of himself. I also don't think it's coincidence that Daniel Lynch has been able to do something like that. He went to Virginia. Give smart guys info, watch them process it, watch them get better.
And we see this in all sorts of sports. The guys who have the talent, they have the smarts, they just, for whatever reason, can't put it together. You put the right coach in front of them and they turn it on. Look at football. Probably the most obvious in football because more people know coaches and assistant coaches in the NFL than anywhere else. But like Alex Smith was the bust of busts when he was in San Francisco until Jim Harbaugh showed up. Alex Smith now, pretty much everyone everywhere he's been like, oh yeah, Alex Smith, good quarterback. Not elite, couldn't probably win you a Super Bowl, but yeah, good quarterback. Sure. He was awful before Jim Harbaugh showed up in the NFL and coached the Urban Meyer goofiness out of him. And now look at what he became. Obviously, at the end of his time in San Francisco, then with the Chiefs, then his 1 year he actually played when he was in Washington. Same kind of principle here, I think, for Bubich. You just find the right information, like you said. and maybe just the right personality and the right, relationship with your pitching coach, and everything can click. So I'm very happy for Chris Bubich. He and Bobby Witt Jr., your pitcher and player of the month for March/April for the Kansas City Royals.
Next headline, we go to basketball, where Shams Charania of ESPN was first to report that Greg Popovich will no longer be the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs and will be transitioning full-time to a team president role. Popovich suffered a stroke back in November, and though he had hoped at the time that he would be able to recover sufficiently to get back on the sideline, but there was another medical incident April 15th at a San Antonio restaurant, after which Popovich was hospitalized. He has since returned home, reportedly has been feeling much better since, but has decided to step aside from coaching. In a statement, Popovich said, "While my love and passion for the game remain, I've decided it's time to step away as head coach. I'm forever grateful to the wonderful players, coaches, staff, and fans who allowed me to serve them as a Spurs head coach, and I'm excited for the opportunity to continue to support the organization, community, and city that are so meaningful to me." Popovich leaves coaching, presumably for good, as the winningest coach in NBA history and a 5-time NBA champion. Assistant coach Mitch Johnson, who was the acting head coach throughout the most recent season for the Spurs, will get the full-time head coaching job.
Greatest of all time?
I think he...
Certainly in the conversation.
Yes. I mean, if there's a Mount Rushmore, it's Auerbach, Riley, Jackson, and Popovich. I don't think that's any dispute. I'd really have to sit and think about that, because there was such a talent advantage that Jackson's teams had, and there was such a talent advantage that Auerbach's teams had, because he was, willing to do things like acquire black players and start them in a time when that was not widely done. Credit him for being a trailblazer, certainly. But Popovich, I think, was able to win throughout different eras. Yeah. And Tim Duncan is an all-time great. I want to undersell Tim Duncan and say, well, he never had a good player as Phil Jackson did with Michael Jordan. No, he didn't. But Tim Duncan's the greatest power forward of all time, probably.
David Robinson's a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Tony Parker, one of the best international players ever. And Manu Ginobili, both two of the best international players ever.
I think both of them are in the Hall of Fame, or ought to be.
Kawhi Leonard for one of those championships, who was incredible early, still incredible.
1,422 regular season victories, 3-time NBA Coach of the Year, and somebody who also has paved the way for women to be assistant coaches in the NBA. Hired Becky Hammon as an assistant coach, and if there is one day a woman who is a head coach in the NBA, it will be Popovich's influence that made that so.
A couple other notes here. Did you mention the Olympic golds?
I did not.
Because he does have an Olympic gold from the 2021 Tokyo Games.
Right.
Won gold as the head coach of Team USA, replacing Coach K. He was also the coach, an assistant coach at the FIBA Americas Championship in 2003. That was a gold for the U.S. He was an assistant for the bronze medal winning team in 2004 in Athens. He also was formerly an assistant coach at the University of Kansas. 1986 to 87 under Larry Brown.
That's right.
He was on the bench, left in KU, immediately won a national championship. No, just kidding. Obviously, though, pretty cool that he was there for that. Also, I would argue the most famous person from East Chicago, Indiana, passing Kenny Lofton. Shout out to my guy, Etwan Moore, also from East Chicago. But yeah, no, I mean, legend, very outspoken. And, I always respect that, even if, whether I do or don't agree with someone who's willing to, stand in front of a microphone in a completely different area of life and say, hey, I believe, this is going on and it's not right, or, X, Y, Z, whatever social cause. I respect people who are willing to always be vocal about that. And he always has been vocal about that. Is he a veteran as well?
He's got some ties to the Air Force.
Yeah, he went to Air Force.
Yeah.
So yes, he did serve in the Air Force.
Yes.
And went to the Air Force Academy. Got his degree in Soviet studies. Something that I'm sure was very popular in the late 1960s when he was in college.
You got a quick, speaking of KU, quick KU basketball tangential headline?
Yes, a former Kansas Jayhawk, Rylan Griffin, spurning what was expected to be a return to Alabama and Nate Oates, and instead, according to On3, has committed to Texas A&M. Who took over? Oh, Bucky. Bucky Ball. Yeah, Bucky McMillan. They're going to have a lot of playing time.
He's going to love Bucky Ball.
You know what's also very funny? He's going to be teammates with Zach Clements again. Good luck. 6.3 points per game this past season for Rylan Griffin. He was, of course, a starter for Alabama's Final Four team 2 seasons ago. Didn't work out at KU for myriad reasons. But he's going to Texas A&M. You're going to play fast and probably not play a lot of defense. He probably is going to thrive.
Yeah, that seems like the perfect system for him. Let's do the playoff roundup to round up our headlines for this Friday.
Dan, I think that sounds like a great idea.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
We'll start on the hardwood. Jalen Brunson's three-point dagger in the final seconds lifted the New York Knicks to a win in Game 6 in Detroit over the Pistons and a series win 4-2 to complete the Eastern semifinal field. It'll be the Knicks and the Celtics on one side of the bracket, the Cavaliers and the Pacers the other Eastern semi. So the Knicks moving on in 6 hotly contested games. I believe the total point margin in that series was Knicks plus 15.
That's pretty wild.
And the Pistons lost 3 home games in the series by a combined 6 points.
They had a chance at the end. Cade Cunningham passed to Malik Beasley, who would have gotten a decently open 3, and he dropped the pass.
Just forgot to take the ball with him.
Yep. Catch the ball.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Man, they yacked that one away. Pistons should have won that game.
Yeah, the Pistons probably could have won all 3 home games. It could very easily have been them moving on. So the Knicks will advance to get a mud hole walked in them by the Celtics. Out west, the Los Angeles Clippers held off a late Denver Nugget rally to force a Game 7 in that Western series. It is the only Game 7 we know for sure will occur in the NBA's first round. James Harden, a big night, 28 points. Tonight, Golden State has home court as they try to close out the Rockets in Game 6 of that series.
I think they will. Give me the Warriors.
I agree with you. In the NHL, a huge sigh of relief.
Boo.
Get it? Toronto tops Ottawa in Game 6, 4-2 to advance in the Eastern Conference. The Maple Leafs moving on after nearly blowing a 3-0 series lead. Vegas and Edmonton both advance in the West. That is 9 consecutive first-round losses for the Minnesota Wild. They are the only team in the 4 major sports to make the playoffs in 8 or more years in a 10-year stretch and lose in the first round every single time. On the one hand, LOL. On the other hand, LMAO.
I have no love lost for the Minnesota Wild.
So Vegas is moving on. So is Edmonton, a Game 6 winner over the Kings. So the Golden Knights and the Oilers will play in the Western Conference semifinal. In the other Western Conference first-round series last night, Colorado blew an early 2-0 lead, but rallied from behind at home in the third to beat the Dallas Stars and force a Game 7 in that series. Tonight, Winnipeg is at St. Louis for Game 6. Blues at home facing elimination. Winnipeg trying to move on. Saturday, within 30 minutes of each other, a Game 7 for both the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche.
What are you going to do leading up to that?
Rock back and forth and hyperventilate.
I get that.
Yeah, for blow into a paper bag for the entirety of the day. It's like I told, those like DNA charts where it's like you have the 4 possible outcomes.
Yeah.
So there's 4 possible outcomes here, right? The Avalanche Nuggets could both win. One or the other could win, or they could both lose. So if you look at it that way, there's a 75% chance I leave Saturday at least feeling a little bit okay. And a 25% chance my wife is going to have to hide the household poisons, which is a good thing we already have them behind lock and key because we have a child. So
if you had to pick one to win, who's it going to be?
The Avalanche, because I think they can advance longer. I think even if the Nuggets win, they'd lose to the Thunder, but I think the Avs could win the Cup if they advance. If I could only pick one, hell of a Sophie's choice, though. I hate that you made me pick. We'll take a break, come back with the final word after this. Time for a quick final word before we hand it off to Royals baseball. Brendan, go.
Final word for me is I'm excited for the ponies tomorrow. I'm going to clear the whole schedule after I mow my lawn in the morning, and I'm going to get ready for the Derby tomorrow. Can't wait.
My final word is think good thoughts for your boy and his mental health. 2 Game 7s with my favorite hockey team, my favorite basketball team on the same day. Think good thoughts for me. Hope that I make it through. Hope that my mental health survives the outcome one way or another.
I'm thinking good thoughts for your wife.
Yeah, that's probably the better thing to do, for being 100% honest. Royals baseball coming up next and throughout the weekend. Royals and Orioles. That's coming up 6:05 first pitch. We're back on Monday to recap the entire sports weekend from 3 to 6. For Brendan, I'm Dan. Good night.